Good afternoon, everybody. Unfortunately, as we've been saying all along, the fire season is far from over, and today, again, we've seen tragic consequences where 3 people have lost their lives after a large air tanker crashed in the Snowy Mountains, Monaro region. And our thoughts and prayers and heartfelt condolences go to their families. It was a company contracted by the RFS to undertake that vital work. And again, our deepest condolences to those families who've been impacted. It demonstrates the dangerous work currently being undertaken, and it also demonstrates the conditions that our firefighters are working under. There are in excess of 70 aircraft that have been used today alone. And today is a stark and horrible reminder of the dangerous conditions that our volunteers, our emergency services personnel across a number of agencies undertake on a daily basis. And again, it allows us to consider just the circumstances people are facing every day. We've got more than 1,700 volunteers and personnel in the field today. There are 5 fires, one in the ACT and 4 in New South Wales, currently at emergency warning level. However, we're confident that weather conditions are easing over the next few hours, and hopefully we won't see any further concern beyond the fire complexes that are currently at emergency level already. But again, today demonstrates the fire season is far from over, and today is a reminder of how every single person who is defending life and property is at risk because of the dangerous circumstances, and the firefighting community around New South Wales, Australia and the world is very tight-knit, and I know many people have been impacted by the tragic news this afternoon, and our thoughts are not just with the families and friends and loved ones, but also for anybody who feels impacted by what's unfolded this afternoon. And we can't thank enough people who continue, notwithstanding these conditions, to put their own safety at risk to protect the lives and property of others. The main fire activity is again, unfortunately, on the far south coast of New South Wales, impacting on a number of coastal towns. And again, towns that have already been impacted in recent weeks are facing again that threat this afternoon, although we're hoping that milder weather conditions and the easing of wind conditions will allow us to better fight those fires currently. Commissioner.
Thank you, Premier. As indicated, we've still got more than 80 fires burning around New South Wales, and half of those are not contained. We've seen fires get to emergency warning level today, up to 5 at any given time. We've now backed down to 4 at the emergency warning level, and as the Premier indicated, there's also that fire in the ACT, which has been elevated to emergency warning alert level as well throughout the day, and we've got under normal cross-border assistance teams helping our colleagues in the ACT as they routinely do for us through at any given fire season. The 4 fires that we've got burning at emergency warning level include 2 down the south coast that have been impacting west of areas like Eurobodalla and Bodalla itself, and then also places like Berejiklian and Maruya down the south coast. We also got 2 new fires today to the north and the northeast of Bombala, which remain at emergency warning alert level at the moment. Throughout the day, the warnings and the advice to communities being impacted by these fires has varied depending on the particular circumstances. But generally speaking, the advice at the moment across those emergency warning fire grounds is to seek shelter as fire approaches. It is too dangerous to leave, and crews and aircraft and machinery are actively deployed at the moment in attempting to save and protect as much as we can in the path of these fires. As would be expected, particularly the stuff that's closer to the coast has impacted some of the arterial roads. We've seen heavy impact on the likes of the Araluan Road, the Princes Highway, and then further south down around Bombala we've seen impacts there as well. So a very difficult afternoon for firefighters. We saw the fire in Western Sydney get to emergency warning out near Box Hill. That's settled down now, and crews are getting on top of that and gaining the upper hand. As the Premier indicated, though, tragically this afternoon, shortly before 1:30 p.m, we lost contact with one of our large air tankers, a C-130 waterbombing aeroplane that we've been using here in New South Wales for some years now under contract, working through the NAFC, the National Aerial Firefighting Centre, as the host jurisdiction for that machine. Tragically, there appears to be no survivors as a result of the crash down in the Snowy Monaro area. It's impacted heavily with the ground, and initial reports are that there was a large fireball associated with the impact of the plane as it hit the ground. We've got a number of firefighters and a number of crew that are in the area and working to contain and work around the fire. It is still an active fire ground, and it did take some time with the use of ground crews and a number of aerial surveillance platforms to try and locate the wreckage of the plane. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the 3 occupants who routinely crew that specialised aircraft, and of course our wonderful partners in Coulson Aviation who have worked with us, have a long and respected reputation of working high-capacity aircraft in firefighting here in New South Wales and overseas in the Northern Hemisphere, but for us in New South Wales particularly with large air tankers over the last 4 or 5 years as we've invested more heavily. As a precaution and as a standard precaution, Coulsons have grounded their large air tankers this afternoon, and indeed as a mark of respect and as welfare for the rest of their crews operating large air tankers here in New South Wales and interstate in Victoria, have grounded those operations pending review to ensure that there's nothing systemic such as a fuel problem or something like that. We've got the military helping us with the assessment and the evaluation of the fuel to rule that out, but of course I'm sure everyone would appreciate and respect that there's a process to work through, and having spoken personally with the owner and operator of Coulsons, both myself and Deputy Commissioner Rogers have had a number of conversations this afternoon. They are in the process of making contact with the loved ones of the families, so we need to be very respectful that there's no way we're looking at releasing names or anything at this stage until we know A, the details concerning the crash, and B, that appropriate notifications have occurred. The owners will be on a first available flight out of Canada that they can get on, and they're expected to be here in Sydney, in Australia, in the next 24 hours or so, where we'll be able to extend further and in person our condolences and work with them as they evaluate and work with their teams operating here in New South Wales, in Australia, and much further afield. As the Premier indicated, it is a confronting and sobering reminder of the inherent dangers and risks associated with firefighting, and we've seen all too often, unfortunately, this season, the very tragic consequences that can come as a result of these significant bushfires that we've seen burning across New South Wales. Any questions?
Do we know what caused the flight to crash? Do we know any details about what was happening before it crashed?
No, it was deployed to fires in the Snowy Monaro region, and it was operating as it routinely does with water bombing activities, and we simply lost contact with the machine, and the flight tracker that we used stopped. There is no indication at this stage of what's caused the accident. Clearly, as you would appreciate, the scene itself is the subject to police control for their appropriate investigations and assessments, and of course the ATSB, the national regulator for aviation matters, is also heavily involved in their assessments and investigations, and it will serve us all well to not speculate and simply await the results of those findings and those investigations.
What were the weather conditions like at the time when it came down?
Oh, look, today down through the region, it's been very hot. It's been very dry. It's been very windy. We've seen smoke and we've seen dust across the area. It was another very difficult, aggressive fire weather day, which resulted in so many of these fires spreading and breaking out.
Were the Army choppers having difficulty locating the wreckage because of the dust in the air?
We had a number of aircraft operating in the air, including a number of ADF helicopters and a number of other aerial platforms that we've got with camera and surveillance technologies on them. All 4 machines, given the limited details that we had, and given that the fire burning in the area, remembering this machine was operating on an active fire ground. It still is an active fire ground. It was very difficult to locate the wreckage of the plane, and it was some hours after we lost contact and after we had the reports from the field of witnessing a crash that we were actually able to locate and get some vision of the crash scene.
Did the witnesses suggest they saw anything before it came down?
Beg your pardon?
Did the witnesses that saw it come down, did they see anything happen in the sky?
As I indicated earlier, the only thing that I've got from the field reports are that the plane came down, it's crashed, and there was a large fireball associated with that crash.
What's the experience background of the people that were on board?
They're absolute professionals, and if I may, the firefighting fraternity, as we keep saying, is a tight-knit family. It's a fairly small family, and the crew on board were well known, not just to their colleagues here in Australia, but we're also reminded that a number of our US colleagues that are embedded in some of the incident management teams right now, including down in the high country, actually had personal relationships with them. So our hearts are with all those that are suffering what is the loss of three remarkable, well-respected crew that have invested, so many decades of their life into firefighting and fire management, and are professionals in the aviation sector and the aviation firefighting sector. And as I said earlier, we're very proud of our relationship, our professional relationship with Coulson's. They're a highly regarded, highly respected firefighting aviation contractor and organisation. And it hurts deeply, and we've had some very sensitive and very emotional conversations with the owners and operators of that organisation. And as I say, our hearts, our thoughts and prayers are with them right now during this most awful of times.
Do you know how old the plane is?
No, I don't.
Can I get an update on the conditions at the fire burning at Queanbeyan on the New South Wales ACT border?
At this stage, I don't have any details of any concern. There was initially the reports that there was the potential for it to spread into places like East Queanbeyan, but that doesn't appear to have materialised, and I have no reports of any impact into properties in the Queanbeyan region at this stage. Lots of firefighters, aircraft under the control of the ACT, with some of our resources in there helping, and we'll wait and see how that goes in terms of whether they downgrade that alert level over the coming hours.
Just quickly back to the plane that came down. Can I confirm it was the Thor? And are you able to tell us the ages and gender of those involved?
No, I don't. I don't know if it's Thor, but it's a C-130 Hercules waterbomber, one of those machines that takes in the order of 15,000 litres, and I don't, and if I did, I probably wouldn't at this stage disclose any further details about the occupants.
How long has the waterbomber been in use with the RFS?
We've been working with Coulson's now for 4 or 5 years with C-130s and the 737. As a matter of fact, we bought our own 737 here in New South Wales from Coulson's, and we've contracted to Coulson's to operate and maintain our dedicated machine here in New South Wales, as well as contracting another 737 this season and the C-130 that's crashed. And we also need to be mindful that through the national arrangements, they've also got another C-130 operating in Victoria, and they're also very experienced in large rotary wing helicopters of high volume and high capability that also operate in New South Wales, particularly in places like Victoria, over many years.
You said the military's looking into investigating what happened.
No, I didn't. I never said the military were investigating and doing what happened. The military helped us in the deployment to try and locate the crash site and locate the wreckage and see if we could identify any survivors. Unfortunately, all we've been able to do is locate the wreckage and the crash site. We have not been able to locate any survivors. The federal authorities through the ATSB, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, as well as the New South Wales Police Force, will be undertaking, as is their jurisdiction, appropriate investigations and assessments as to what may have happened to cause or result in this crash.
And how long do you expect that to take?
I don't know. It typically takes, in these circumstances, many weeks, if not months, to work through the details. And my experience, and our experience here in New South Wales, is it's not unusual for the likes of the ATSB to, at some stage, issue an interim report before they do some more detailed report, but I don't want to speak on their behalf.
Will the grounding of Coulson's fleet have any impact on fighting fires?
Look, obviously, grounding of a number of aircraft momentarily will have an effect on our aerial capacity, but it's absolutely warranted, and I support them 100% in grounding them for the reasons that they've stipulated. Number one, if we have any aviation crash, like we did only months ago up near Bulahdelah, I think it was, a helicopter crashed, we grounded aircraft in that area, and we grounded other aircraft that were operated by. That's a routine practice. We make sure there was no systemic supply issue like fuel that could cause other machines to crash, and we just make sure that we're clear to operate and fly with that operator and with that aircraft type. And of course, I think what Coulsons have done, which is entirely appropriate, and I think reflective of their value and their appreciation for their workforce, they're very mindful of the emotional and psychological effect that such a tragedy will have on the rest of their workforce, not just here in Australia, but at a home over in the Northern Hemisphere in North America or Canada.
Was there a Mayday call?
I don't know.
And what's the next stage in terms of recovering the aircraft and the victims?
Look, that will be in the hands of the police and the ATSB. Obviously, it's a scene that is under the management and control of police, and of course the ATSB will forensically go through the available information, which includes debris and site analysis to determine cause, and then at some stage we will see the retrieval of the aircraft, and more importantly, we will see the retrieval of the occupants.
Are you able to confirm if those were Australians or international crew?
No, all three occupants on board were US residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.